There's a huge snake moving back and forth, spitting on our soldiers. Can you bravely control your high-tech umbrella and protect our men and women from this indignity? Let's take a quick game break with G.I. Joe, Cobra Strike for your Atari brand 2600 or Sears equivalent.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
G.I. Joe attack! Boom, boom!
Although G.I. Joe has been around since the mid-60s, when they were foot-tall, not dolls, for boys, the 3 3/4 action figure line from the 80s is likely the incarnation most people around my age remember best. When I was a kid, I actually remarked to my friends that G.I. Joe toys were better than Star Wars because they had more points of articulation. Many of them still refused to speak to me. The success of the toy line led to the inevitable, inescapable monsoon of licensed products. Besides obviously the figures and vehicles, each sold separately, you had Halloween costumes, board games, coloring books, book and record sets, and eventually a cartoon series.
G.I. Joe, American hero, G.I. Joe is there.
And yes, a video game. Parker Brothers, the third party that had some of the most versatile retail boxes ever, released G.I. Joe Cobra Strike for the 2600 back in 1983. Or if you're in the UK, Action Man, Action Force. Either way, the game is the perfect example of questionable licensing. Other than the name on the box and the large Cobra serving as the stand-in for the decidedly non-reptilian Cobra terrorist military group, there's little else to tie this into the G.I. Joe universe. Those people on the bottom of the screen are supposed to be the Joes according to the manual, but they're not doing any cool soldier things, just running into and away from danger. Game title quibbles aside, what Cobra Strike offers is typical VCS action. The object is to destroy the Cobra by delivering 8 direct hits into its eyes, while using your shields to protect the soldiers from its venom and laser beams. The paddle controller moves the shield across the bottom of the screen in a barely predictable way. In games like Breakout, you have precise control over the bar, stopping when you quit turning the dial. Here, the shield stubbornly retains its momentum. It does take some getting used to. However, pressing the button will keep it still, useful for when you hear the unmistakable sound of an incoming laser beam. Laser snakes. You can fire upon the Cobra when your shield is next to the cannon or anywhere on the novice setting. The shots can be steered towards the Cobra's eyes using the paddle. Once you finish it off with the requisite 8 hits, you move on to a higher difficulty. The game continues until you've lost 4 soldiers or you grow bored of it. Though if you can make it to level 16, obtain photographic proof of your accomplishment, and somehow travel back in time to 1983, Parker Brothers will send you a black Cobra cap. The multiplayer aspect of this game is unique as it allows up to 3 players to participate at the same time. 2 players can man 2 separate shields and cannons, while 1 player, using the joystick, can control the Cobra. Disappointingly, both of the good guys will share the same scoreboard, relegating any real competition to a strictly Joes vs. Cobra affair. Also a big bummer, you can't play as the Cobra single player. Sound and visuals are typical for the VCS. The Cobra is impressive and intimidating enough, and none of the sprites need interpretation by a manual that's most likely long lost. Those little running soldiers don't look like Scarlet or Snake Eyes or Zap, but nor are they the lazy abstract shapes you've come to expect from Atari. You won't hear the familiar commercial and later cartoon theme song, but you will get treated to a few sped-up notes of reveille. G.I. Joe Cobra Strike definitely has its charms. It's not pushing the console to its limits, but it's not thrown together either. If I had to say something bad about the title, besides the fact that, despite the name, it doesn't do anything to tie itself in with its action figure namesake, it'd be that it grows a little monotonous after a while. As you progress, the Cobra will mix up its attacks a bit, perhaps move a little faster, but that's about it. That being said, considering the reputation licensed games have, particularly at a time when companies were hastily slapping together cartridges for the 2600, anticipating it to sell solely on name recognition regardless of quality, Cobra Strike is actually quite decent. The gameplay is unique with a clear objective. It supports both cooperative and competitive multiplayer, and what can I say? I'm a sucker for a game that makes effective use of the paddle controllers. Subsequent G.I. Joe video games, including a home computer game by Epix, a couple of NES games by Taxon and Capcom, and even a 4-player arcade game by Konami made better use of the licensed G.I. Joe characters and vehicles, each sold separately. But despite Cobra Strike being an in-name only G.I. Joe product, you can certainly do a lot worse as far as games go. This was Dave for TeeVee Games. Liking, commenting, and subscribing is half the battle. And as always, see you next time.
Watch out, Cobra. Fred is coming through.
Yo,